Hey everybody, it's Tammy and thanks for joining me. Today we're working on our October calendar page and it's Halloween Harvest Patchwork type of a style. So I am making 4 of these calendars for 2026 and they're wall calendars and you can make them for any calendar year that you like, of course. So I've got the first 3 made up and I really like how these turned out. These are all little bits of scrapbook paper with this main smaller image in here. Well, that's the date page of that. Calendar number 1. There's my second one. Date page for that. I got some black spots on there, but oh well. And number 3, the trucks with the pumpkins. I thought that was neat. So that's for that one. So now I'm going to work on number 4 with you. So that's September, and that's my date page for September. So I am going to, as the calendar's on the wall, you're going to flip this up, and that's going to be the October picture page. I did this on a piece of scrapbook paper that I don't love. And that's why there's this design here, and I put my arrow there so I know that I'm going to put my image that way in case I start turning it around and whatnot. I don't want to have it on the wrong way up. So I've made some marks already so that I know where to glue this one, and I'm using all different images. These are fairly normal weighted paper. They're not cardstock. Okay, I'm going to put this down with my tacky glue. So we're almost done the calendar. A couple months after this and we'll be done, and I will leave a link to the playlist if in case that you miss some other months. You can join us and see all the different kinds of calendar pages that I've been making to make totally unique calendars. 1 for myself and 3 for other people next year. Well, I guess it's not really next year, it's March now. I started making these in January, and I guess I'll be finished in April. And I just want to make sure that this is straight. As straight. Oh yeah, that's fine. So this is very patchworky, lots of bits. I used some different kinds of scrapbook papers, and so I've got lots of little bits left over. And these were 6x6, the polka dots, and this, is that like the Harlequin? These types of things. So these are all, I cut these all up into lots of little bits because I wanted it to be really busy, I guess. So I'm going to work my way out from the center, I think. Let's use a glue stick today because my tacky glue takes a while for the glue to get down, and you know, it gets a little boring watching me try to get my glue to come out. So we'll use glue stick. I've used glue stick for this project and the tacky glue. And I will double check them later on as it gets closer to next year when I'm going to give them away. I'll just go over them again and make sure that everything is nicely glued down still. I've got these little bits. So I want to just make sure that I'm kind of having these centered. Not so much that I'm going to measure, but just so that visually it looks like it's about even. Pretty close. It's going to be pretty busy anyway, so it's can be more forgiving. And maybe at the end I'll just do a quick flip through of the months that we've done, just so you can see, because they look really pretty and we're on the home stretch. And I've done some inking around this black ink, and I will do some black soot around the whole thing. So let's see where this is coming to. Okay, because I've cut my pieces and I've kind of planned it out, so then I have to just make sure that it's going to make sense as I glue it on. I've been barreling ahead doing November, and I thought, okay, today's the day. I got to do October, because I'll start to forget how I wanted it to look. But some days, you know, for filming, you gotta be in the zone. You gotta feel relaxed and ready to do it. And some days I just, you know, you're just not. And so you wait for that day. I try to not get too far ahead of myself. But I start on November, and it's like a woodland creature, green foresty, and it's looking really nice. But we must be disciplined and not get too far ahead. I don't know if you can hear some strange sound in the background. It's really windy here today. It's warmed up to about 17 degrees Celsius. And it's super windy. And so yeah, the house is making noises. I took the bus home from town today, and I got blown up the street. Just got to lean into it. Sometimes it takes you by surprise and you can kind of get knocked over. One time it was so windy that as I was walking and lifting my feet, my foot would get blown out from under me as I was walking. That's only happened one time. That was insane. I think that was like gusting up to 100 kilometers an hour. So, but yeah, not today, but still. It can be a bit of exercise walking against it. The good news is it's March 24th and spring is here, coming. The trees are starting to have leaf buds on them. The geese have paired off around our pond with the males standing guard over the females. The females just eat all the time, and the males stand there and chase anybody off. And they're on the paths this year more than they were last year, and I'm not sure why, but you gotta like walk way around them because they usually won't move. They just stare you down, and they'll even hiss as the spring progresses. They'll hiss at you, and you just go, oh, okay, yep, I'll just go around you. That's fine, I don't mind. And the robins are singing. You can tell I like birds. And I heard my first red-winged blackbird the other day. Love that sound. The ground squirrels have woken up from their hibernation, and of course the hawks have come back because they eat the ground squirrels. And the rattlesnakes are going to be coming out of hibernation any day, and if they haven't already, I'm not sure. Might be a little early for them because the rattlesnakes also enjoy eating the ground squirrels. You know, it's the circle of life. And the ground squirrels, they dig really, they're small animals, and they dig these big holes, and they throw all this dirt out the back, and they'll sort of sit in their hole and squeal at each other. It's quite something. My eyesight isn't very good, so often I can't see them, but I can hear them squealing at each other from their little holes. Sometimes the hawks just set up shop on a few of their favorite spots where the ground squirrels have lots of their little dens, and they just kind of sit there and wait and pick them off. So good thing there's lots of ground squirrels to go around. Okay, well, it's looking pretty good so far. Here's a little candy corn. And this is just some scrapbook light cardstock that I've put my black soot ink around. That's gonna go there. Looks like I'm gonna have a teeny little spot to fill in there, and this is gonna go across. So how about I'll put this down first, and then I can fill in from there. And in a little while, the mule deer will start having their babies. Mule deer are fairly large deer, and their babies are really cute, and they have spots. And they're a good size, and the babies all grow up around here. They grow up around neighborhoods and dogs and people, so they get pretty tame as they, well, I'm not super tame, but like they're not terrified of people as they grow up. Sometimes I'll see the big males with their huge antlers, and they're big animals, and I think, you know, that was maybe just a little baby deer that I saw a few years ago. Just a little guy with spots, and now it's this huge boy with these big antlers. They just kind of stare at you. They're always eating, usually. They cross the street at the crosswalks often, which I find funny. They'll walk right to the crosswalks and cross that way. I guess they're just watching us, following what we're doing. If animals could talk, I'd love to hear what they had to say. All right, so, gee, we are getting there. And these I've inked a little bit too with this is black soot that I use. So I am gonna have to cut this down a little, and I'm just gonna glue this side first. I'm not really concerned about the seam needing to go in the very center. That's okay. So let's mark this. Yeah, springtime in Canada is very different depending on where you are. In some parts it's very rainy, and where we are it's quite windy, unsettled and windy. Well, it's just unsettled everywhere, but we don't get very much rain here at all. A little bit in the spring, you know, occasionally we'll have a thunderstorm in the summer, but it's very dry where we are. Semi-arid, we have cactus, prickly pear cactuses, and those little, I think they're like, I don't know, pincushion or something, I forget what they're called, and rattlesnakes and things that like dry. I mean, our cactuses are small, but still they're pretty cool. Okay, so I'm gonna have to, I'll just fill that in later. I've got a little bit of a gap there. Somehow I must have just cut these a little bit off. For this, mostly I use this my little tonic paper trimmer. I really like it, and it goes to a 1/2 inch, and so if you want to go smaller than a half, I have to use my other one, but it's got measurements up to 4.5 down to 9, so I use this as much as I can. I really enjoy it, and it has a nice clean cut to it. I got a bigger one as well, and it is nice as well, and it lives on my desk because it's the big one. So it lives on the desk. I don't move it, and it will do more than one sheet of paper, although I'm not doing more than one. Maybe I'm just not in the habit of it yet, knowing that I can do that, but usually I'm just doing all this individual type stuff, like cutting one thing at a time, so works perfect for that. Okay, let's see this. I don't know why that side was a little bit shorter, but all right. And the last thing we have is this little, I think it's the Harlequin, as it's called, yeah. And I've cut that pretty perfect. And I've got a seam, so I'll have my seam there, and then this one I'll have the seam up higher so they're not right beside each other. I don't want that. So let's go for this. And I'm just cheating. I'm not using my glue page because I'm gluing this and I'm sticking it pretty close to where I'm gluing it, so I don't mind working that way with it. So that's nice. Mark this. Now I've already made my December pages up. I think December was maybe the second month that I worked on, when I was just doing random months, and I used some things that I had also made from a tutorial. I made them up, I followed the tutorial, and then same thing, I finished them, and I'll show you when we do December. And I thought, you know what, I'm just not going to use this as intended. So I just decommissioned it all and turned it into bits and things to put on my calendar page. And I was really pleased with that, because I never like making things and then I don't like them, or I don't know what to do with them, or I don't do anything with them. So I would rather take them apart and remake them into something else. I guess maybe that's a part of a challenge, is what could I do with this now? If I'm not going to use it for what I made it for, what else can I do with it? All right. So all we need is the top and the bottom. And this is what I've got so far, and I'm going to make sure that I get these right to the edge, because this has got some ink on it, so I don't necessarily want to cover that up. Or yeah, I want the ink to show. And I'm getting to the edge here, and I don't really want to put a bunch of glue on my cutting mat, so I'll use this now. And actually, because I've made this on that green paper that I didn't really like, it's got a darker background, so if there's a couple little spots that don't get covered by a teeny bit, it's actually good because the background covers that up. So that's handy. Sometimes if that happens, I'll just, and it's dark that I'm using, I'll just put a little bit of a, you know, just a tiny bit of Sharpie inside the seam or whatever, if there's a little bit showing, like I could on the side here, because there's a tiny bit of white showing at the edge. I mean, I'm going to ink that, but you could just do that, and then it's not white anymore. All the little secret things that we do to make things, try to make things look perfect in an imperfect world. Well, that came, whoops, I got butterfingers. It is quite nice having it all laid out. I knew what I wanted to do, and I laid it out, and then all you have to do is slap it down. I even took a picture of it just in case I, in case I made a mess and it all went everywhere, just because I wanted to look the way I had laid it out, and cut everything, of course. Okay, so that's good. And then I think I just have a little strip there, and I feel like I'm gonna forget about that. Because I have done that. I have forgotten about things in the past. So my gluing's all done. Then let's just look and see if I've got anything hanging over. All right, I've cut all my edges that were maybe hanging over a bit, And there's just a bit of white I can see, so I want to ink this up anyway to make it look vintage and spooky and all that. So give my ink pad a really good smoosh so the edges look good. And sometimes I just like to just make sure that there's nothing, see that looks a little bit white in there. Now it doesn't. Well, there we are. So isn't that lovely? And just because I was going ahead, I've already done my dates page for October, and this is just a free printable from online that I got, and I've been using the same one for, or the same, you know, font for all of them. So that's the top and that's the bottom, and that's one we did for August, and that was July, June, May was the disc golf month, April, March, February, and January. Well, that's it for today. We will see you next time when we work on November.